Astley Salvation Army, coming to you directly from Astley Salvation Army. This is the place where we worship on a Sunday in normal times, and I thought it would be good for me to record from this place today. I hadn't actually planned on doing that, which is why I'm not quite dressed as I would normally be, but I really wanted to record in this place, so that's what we're doing, spontaneous. It's not very me, but yeah. Now last week I spoke a little bit about the wise and foolish builders and how it's important to build our lives on the right thing. And that actually got me thinking about some other wise men in the Bible. Wise men who we may associate with the Christmas story. Now there's a few myths associated with these wise men. So we're going to think about a couple of the myths, we're going to read the scripture, and I'm going to unpack a little bit of the context and the detail surrounding it. But to begin with, the wise men are in Matthew's Gospel. Now, this is going to be a series for the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to call it Jesus Seekers. So these wise men are our first Jesus seekers that I'm going to talk about. And in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 2, they appear directly after the angel has come to Joseph to tell him that Mary is pregnant. Now we know that that event did not happen directly after we found out Mary was pregnant. There's a lot of stuff that happened in the middle of there, and most of that is found in Luke's Gospel. So we kind of have to piece the two together to get a fuller picture of what's going on. So before we get into some of the details, let's just look at the word together. So this is from Matthew 2, verses 1 to 12 from the NIV translation. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one that has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem, in Judea," they replied, "for this is where the prophet has written, but you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler, who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly, and found out from the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. Okay, so this account in Matthew's Gospel is actually quite short, it's quite vague. So I wanted to pick out the facts for us, which are, firstly, some magi, however you want to call them, came from the east to Jerusalem after seeing a star they believed was telling them the King of Jews had been born. That's the first fact. Herod sent them to find the child in Bethlehem. The star went ahead of them and stopped over the house where Jesus was. They worshipped him and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and they were told in a dream not to go back to Herod, and so they went home another way. So firstly, like I said at the start, this event did not happen directly after the birth of Jesus. They did not come to worship him in the manger, as many nativities have told you. As you can see from the scripture, it says they came to a house. There's no mention of mangers, stables, inns. But let's also bear in mind that these people have had to travel a really long way from the east. Now, people much more intelligent than I have tried to figure out where they think this is, and people have suggested it be Persia, which is modern-day Iran, to Jerusalem, and a little bit of Googling, and that's about 1,000 miles. So they can't have got there overnight. Let's just bear that in mind. If they saw the star when Jesus was born, it's going to have been a long time till they got there. They didn't have trains, they didn't have planes, they didn't have cars. They had to travel on animals or walking. So people actually think it would have taken anywhere from a month up until 2 years for them to get to Jesus. So it does actually say the child. It doesn't say the baby Jesus, it says the child. So we're imagining that Jesus would have been a toddler at this point, which is a really interesting thing to imagine Jesus as a child. I always think, was he the perfect child too? Did he get on his mother's nerves? We never know. Secondly, some translations do use the term wise men, which is kind of like what tradition has taught us, that's what they're called, or even kings to describe them. But I do actually prefer the word magi, because it gives us an idea of who they were. So the Magi were essentially astrologers who would have interpreted dreams. It spoke about a dream in that passage, didn't it? Interpreted dreams and gained knowledge from the stars and planets. So yeah, they probably were wise. We're assuming they were men. So yeah, okay, that's a fair enough name to call them. But they were men who knew the stars. So when they saw this particular star, they knew it was something important. They knew their stars. So this was important to them. They knew what they were talking about. The next thing is to consider, like I just said, we don't know how many there were. Could have been 3, but that's because we think about the 3 gifts that they brought. But arguably, the most important fact is that Scripture tells us they worshipped Jesus. These men, however many there were definitely Jesus seekers. The stars signified something incredible had happened, and they knew the stars. It was their job and profession to know the stars. It was their life, and they knew it was something special. They felt so strongly, in fact, that they travelled across lots of different countries just to worship a child. They put themselves in danger by visiting King Herod, who we know wasn't the nicest of guys. They travelled hundreds, if not thousands, of miles at a time when, like I say, there was no transport. And when you put that into perspective, doesn't that just blow your mind? The absolute lengths that they went through just to get there, just to present them gifts, just to worship him. And we don't know how long they stayed for. They could have literally just wandered in, given the gifts and gone on their way again. It seems like such a big effort, doesn't it? How far do you travel to get to your church building? Now, I live about 10 to 15 minutes drive from here. I've never tried to walk it. I can't say I would ever want to walk it. It would involve going down a dual carriageway, which I don't think is wise. And I think most of us would say the same. Most of us travel to the church building in a car or public transport. Some of us might walk if you live close enough. Obviously, we know that our whole lives are to be worship to God. But my point is, how much effort do you put in to seek Jesus? If we think of us as Jesus seekers, how much effort do we put in? We can compare ourselves to these magi in here. We don't put nearly as much effort in as that. Jesus has shown us the way to live. The accounts of his life in the Gospels have shown us how to live. Sometimes we might think that's too much effort to seek out the way to live our lives. Is it too much for us to handle? Too difficult for us to uphold? Do we just give up? Do we think, I'll try again tomorrow? Are we Jesus seekers? Or do we just wait to be fed information and knowledge about Jesus? Do you actually want to learn more about Jesus? Do you strive to be more like Jesus? Do you seek out his word? Do you seek out things that are going to help you in that process? because that's what it means to be a Jesus seeker. I'm going to build upon this over the next couple of weeks, and we're going to look at other passages of scripture that include people who are seeking Jesus, actively seeking Jesus. And I'm quite excited to get into it and to look and to think about that. But this week's song is by Graham Kendrick. It's quite an old song for me. This is a song that was quite popular when I was younger, and it's called Knowing You, Jesus. It's a song about wanting to know more about Jesus, and I thought that was perfect for today. I'll upload the video either at the end of this or as a separate video if you want to listen to the song. But my favourite lyrics from this song, it says, verse 2, it says, "Now my heart's desire is to know you more, to be found in you and known as yours, to possess by faith what I could not earn, all surpassing gift of righteousness." And I love that. My heart's desire is to know you more. And that is my heart's desire. And I hope that is your heart's desire. And I hope that this will give you something to think about. So we'll see you again next week, hopefully. I don't know where we'll be next week. Could be here, could be at my house, my office kitchen. Maybe we'll be somewhere else. But whatever happens this week, I hope you have a great week. I hope this will be in the back of your mind as you think about, as you move through the motions of your day-to-day life. Are you seeking Jesus? Take care, and I'll see you next week. All I once had